Hey guys, this is Tom from Numbers Game Lifestyle, and today I'm going to be discussing something that no other dating coach ever talks about. No one ever mentions this, but it's the absolute most important part of your overall success with dating. The types of women that you want, how many you want, the quality of women you want. Everything hinges on your exposure to women, but no one else talks about it. So I'm going to explain it today, just how important exposure is, and the fact that it will always cost you money. Okay, businesses thrive on exposure and they pay for it. The same way you're going to have to probably pay for exposure to women as well, in one way or the other. If you really think about it, you're always paying for exposure. Like I said, the most important part of your overall dating success is how many women actually lay eyes on you and know you exist. Whether that's through a dating app, whether that's through a TV screen, whether that's through in person, people locking eyes with you. Until they do that, you don't exist to them. You are completely a non-factor. You are invisible. No one even knows you exist. Which is why exposure is the most important part. And without getting this stuff handled, you will not succeed. Despite, no one talks about this. No one says anything about this. Okay, let's just see how important this is. Let's think about fishing. Okay? Let's say your buddy, he's showing you all the, look what happened over the weekend. Look at all the fish I caught. And he's showing you all these pictures of these gigantic fish that he caught over the weekend. What do you ask him after he shows you these pictures? Do you ask him, oh, what lure did you use? Must have been your lure, man. Must have been your fishing technique. What kind of technique did you use? No, the first thing out of your mouth is, where did you catch these fish? What stream? What part of the ocean? What part of the river? Where did you go to catch these fish? This is the most important part. The same way with dating. People should be asking you, where did you meet these women? How did you meet these women? It's the most important part. His whole daily routine determines how much exposure to women he gets. And the overall success of, his dating options, how many dating options he has, depends on how much exposure he has. Okay, the greater the exposure, the more options you have, the more opportunities you have. Now let's look at these fishermen. Okay, one's in scarcity. Why is that? Why is he in scarcity? And he's pissed off. He's swearing he hates fishing. He's like, man, this is the biggest waste of time. What am I doing this for? No bites, no action. I see nothing. It's a complete waste of time. I hate fishing. Why? Because he has no abundance, no fish, no exposure. He's got nothing. Of course he's going to hate fishing. Of course he's going to be frustrated. Of course he's going to be angry. He's like, man, this fishing stuff is complete bunk. I'm never doing this again. What a waste of time. This is why he's so pissed off. Now let's look at the other guy. Man, he is surrounded by fish. He found the perfect fishing spot. He's getting bites. He's getting fish every time he goes out. Man, he's like, this fishing stuff is easy. Man, I love this fishing. Man, it's nonstop action. Because he's put himself in a position to win. Because he has an abundance of options. There's lots of exposure. There's lots of fish around. That's where you want to go. That's the first question you ask when someone catches a lot of fish. Where did you catch these fish? What spot did you go to? I'm going to go to that same spot and do the same thing he did. Okay, that's why it's so important. And if you don't believe me, let me get into the whole business aspect of this, okay? All businesses thrive on exposure. Without it, they make no sales. Without it, everything is lost. There is no business. No one, you got a product, it's the best product in the world, but no one knows about it. Too bad. No one cares. No one buys it. You go broke. You're homeless. And you think it's because your product was bad. It's because no, Not enough people saw your product. Okay, this is why scarcity is cheap. Anybody can get scarcity. It's cheap. No one cares about it. Okay, like scarcity is free. You don't want to spend money, you're going to be living in scarcity. And abundance is always going to be expensive, one way or the other. There's no getting around this. And I'm going to get into, you may think like, oh, I've got an idea. I can get exposure for free. Not when you look at it long term, not when you look at it, thoroughly. Okay, let's look at it. Exposure is so important that it will always be monetized. Businesses thrive on it. Without it, they die. Same thing with you. If you have no exposure to women, your dating life will die. It will be non-existent. You're going to be constantly living in scarcity. Okay, let's look at examples. Real estate. What's the most expensive place to live? Of course, it's downtown. And what's the cheapest place to live? On the outskirts, where no one else wants to live, with very little exposure to anything. Okay? All the hottest spots, all the most popular spots, all the spots with the most expensive to live is right downtown, the heart of the city where everything happens, where your exposure is the absolute highest. Okay, this goes with commercial real estate. Think about a restaurant. Where would you want to set up shop? In downtown? Guess what? You're going to be paying a ton of money to lease that commercial spot because the opportunity is so high. There's so much foot traffic, there's so much exposure that they can charge a ridiculously high price because they know if you buy this spot and your product is good, you have the potential to make a lot of money because exposure is that high and your product is so good that you are just going to be like overflowing with money. So they charge a premium for those real estate spots right downtown. And that's the exact same thing happens with, residential real estate as well. A lot of people are going to want to live downtown because you get the most exposure to opportunities there. Work opportunities, social opportunities. It is all there, which is why people want to live downtown despite it being so ridiculously expensive. And of course, living downtown skyrockets your dating options because it's so easy. You just walk outside your door and you see plenty of women that are opportunities there. You just walk down the street, you walk to the corner store, you walk anywhere, and there's attractive women around. Okay? That is exposure, like on overdrive when you live downtown, which is why you will rarely see guys watching dating content about like how to get laid or how to get chicks when guys live downtown because it is that easy for them. They just walk outside their door and they see like opportunities happen. They don't even have to be like cold approach guys. They can just be social circle guys, like regular guys that just don't struggle with it because they have that much exposure. They barely have to do any work. Okay? And if you take a guy that does do work, does cold approach, does online dating, his results just go skyrocket. They just go out of the atmosphere because his exposure to women is so high. Okay, even normies, though, when they live downtown, they have options. They're never living in scarcity. They're always seeing attractive women all day long. It's not a big deal to them. So they don't have to be like, cold approach masters or like dedicate a lot of time to this stuff. They don't even like pay attention to it. Okay? It's when you live on the outskirts, when you're cheap, when you live where like you rarely see attractive women, you live out in the middle of nowhere. Of course you're going to be living in scarcity. You're going to be living in scarcity of everything. Everything's going to be scarce. Women are going to be scarce. Jobs are going to be scarce. So yes, you pay a price for exposure in every case. Let's look at, airport restaurants. These guys have it made. These businesses have such a perfect opportunity that their product can be total crap. It could be a Wendy's. Let's say it's a Wendy's. And if you ever notice when you go to a airport, Wendy's or an airport McDonald's or an airport KFC, the food is actually way worse at the airport than it is when you go to the restaurant like down the way, like downtown or in the country somewhere, because they don't have to be. They're in such a prime location They don't have to worry about return customers, that the food can be absolutely terrible, totally subpar. It doesn't even matter. All they care about is that you bought and then you're on the plane to somewhere else. You completely forget about how crappy this food was. They're not worried about return customers. They're just in the prime spot where they can charge high prices. Yes, they will mark up prices because their location is so good. You go to an airport, you got to be waiting there for hours. People get hungry. Of course, they're going to eat, regardless of how crappy the food is. This is why, exposure is everything. Your environment is everything. This is why they can be such crappy restaurants and they still survive, because people got to eat. They're hungry at airports, despite it being terrible, and they never come back. Well, too bad. You're flying somewhere else. You completely forget about this crappy, Wendy's or whatever it is. Let's look at all advertisement is essentially exposure. Okay. When business advertise, what they're doing is exposure. They're exposing their product to the masses. And hopefully people buy that product. If enough people see it, enough people are like, okay, that interests me. I'm going to try that. Okay, that is what advertising is. It is exposure. And of course, advertisement costs a lot of money. Okay, the more exposure you get, the higher the cost. This is why TV exposure is ridiculously high. TV advertisement is ridiculously high, ridiculously expensive, because a lot of people watch TV. So of course, they're going to charge a lot of money for that. Google advertises oh, you want to be on the front page of a search engine? You're going to have to pay. Doesn't matter how good your site is. That's why all the, you search something in Google now, all the top sites are some crap that you don't even care about. All the search results are terrible because people have been paying and gaming the system, to get on that front page, and Google's reaping all the profits. Same thing with Amazon. I had first-hand experience with this, realizing that there's no way in heck I'd ever get to the front page. You have to pay money in order for people to see your product, in order for people to even see what you're selling. And it's going to cost you a lot of money. All exposure is super expensive because without it, you have nothing. Okay, look at YouTube. What did Ty Lopez do? Remember, Here in My Garage? It was all over YouTube back in the day. He spent an absolute ton of money. I don't know how much he spent, but it had to be in the millions, because his whole business relied on that. His whole business took off from that. And then he just reaped the benefits from all that exposure that he got, all that money he spent. So yes, this stuff is never free. This stuff is never given away. Let's look at dating apps. Dating apps. Remember back in the day when Tinder was free and everybody was on equal footing? You didn't have to pay any money. You got tons of matches. Everything was grand. Until they started monetizing it and started saying hey, man, we can really make a lot of money by, monetizing the exposure. So if guys want to get their profile shown, they got to pay us money, which is exactly what online dating is at this point. It is pay to win. So if you want your profile shown to women, you have to pay money. Without paying money, you're just, you're lost in the shuffle. No one sees you. No one buys your product. No one buys you. No one even matches with you. No one messages you. No one even knows you exist. You are completely invisible without paying for exposure first. And I know some guys are going to be like, I paid to win and I didn't get anything. That is just you having a crappy profile that no one's going to buy. It's like having a crappy product that no one is interested in. In which case you have a lot of improving to do. You have to make your product look more appealing. And then when you pay money, then you reap the benefits. Then you pay to win. Then you actually win. A lot of guys just pay to lose. Okay? With all that said, what can we conclude from this? What we can conclude is that scarce exposure to women will equal scarce dating options, which will equal frustration, loneliness, fear, anxiousness, anxiety. Exactly. That is what you feel when you're in scarcity. You know, everything's a big deal and you're in pain. Okay, it's because you are not exposing yourself to women. And of course, it's going to cost you. Whether you want to, meet women in person, it's going to cost you a lot of time and energy to put yourself in spots where there's a lot of women. Like, you want to live downtown, it's going to cost you. You want to have a lot of exposure on dating apps, it's going to cost you. Oh, let's say, there's a lot of exposure at university. Going to university costs a lot of money, okay? Everything exposure related costs you money, okay? Same thing with, let's look at businesses as an example. Scarce advertisement means scarce income, which means you're poor, you're desperate, you're in fear, you're anxious. Okay, this is everything. Doesn't matter if you're a business or you're a guy trying to get laid, it's the exact same thing. When you're a guy, you're trying to sell yourself, you're exposing yourself to seeing, what the market thinks of your product. Okay, just like the way businesses advertise and they see who's interested in their product. And if there's absolutely, let's say you do go through all the steps, let's say you move downtown or you try a dating app or something like that, and you still get zero action, you don't get any kind of interest, the only thing you conclude is that you have to make improvements to your product. You have to make improvements to your presentation, to appeal to the market. The market being single, attractive women. So yes, you may have to change a few things if you're getting a lot of exposure and still not making very much headway. I mean, you're not satisfied with the results. You're like, man, this is a lot of work still. It means you have improvements to do. Make yourself more appealing to the market, just the way a business would act. We're getting a lot of exposure with our advertisement, but not a lot of people are buying. Yeah, maybe you have to improve the product. Maybe you have to change a few things to appeal to what the masses want, what the market is looking for. Anyways, guys, that's the video. If you need help doing this, whether that's increasing your exposure to women or improving yourself, improving your product so you're more appealing to the dating market, that's exactly what I help guys do. And there's coaching links down below if you want help doing that. Anyways, guys, that's the video. Thank you for watching.